Apart from being an ardent sports lover, he is a Deputy Proctor of the University of Delhi, Deputy Chairperson of the Sports Board of the University of Delhi, and works as an Associate Professor in the Department of English, Khalsa College, Delhi University. Please give a big hand to Mr. Novi Kapadia. Please, sir. Over to you, Novi, sir. I would request you to invite all the panelists over here.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so time is less, so I'll call up everybody. So we started a bit late. So I'll request Suvrat Thatte from All India Football Federation to come up on the stage. Mr. O.P. Singh, ex-director Haryana Sports and Inspector General of Police, Haryana. Mr. Stephen Sundaram from One World Football. Mr. Tom Calder from the Australian Commission. Mr. David Thiru. So we'll all join and then we'll join us up on the stage. Anyway, before we start the proceedings for the morning, we kick off with this very interesting initiative which Magic Bus has done, that this Shivam, a young boy from Magic Bus, he'll share his case story of the experiences, that the way sports has been so positive in his life and how it has changed things, and the way he is seen as a different person by the family and the community. This sort of the whole image of a person who comes through sports, which I think many people who work with grassroots sports initiatives feel that. So let Shivam speak his story and narrate his story. That will be briefly, and Habovi will translate. So I'll request Shivam to come up and then we'll formally start the session. Shivam and Habovi.
Good morning, all of you. My name is Shivam Kumar, and I live in 5 block Vijaypur. Magic Bus joined in 2008. मैंने मैजिक बस पहले मैं एक स्पोर्ट कॉम्प्लेक्स में फुटबॉल खेलता था, जहाँ पर मुझे एक भाई भूपेंद्र भाई थे जो कि मिले मुझे। फिर मैंने देखा कि वो पार्क में एक सेशन ले रहे थे मैजिक बस का, जब मुझे नहीं पता कि मैजिक बस क्या है। तो मैंने भाई से पूछा कि भाई मुझे भी ज्वाइन करना है। वो कुछ स्किल कर रहे थे जो मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगी। मैं गया भाई से पास, फिर मैंने बोला भाई मुझे भी सीखना है। तो मैंने जैसे ही गया वैसे ही मैंने भाई बॉल लेके मैं स्किल कर रहा था। भाई कह रहे ये लड़का कुछ तो एकदम से आया, एकदम से स्किल कर पाया। फिर उन्होंने मुझे मैजिक भाई ज्वाइन करवाया। फिर वहाँ पर मुझे सतीश भाई और नितिन भाई मिले थे। फिर उन्होंने मेरा मैजिक बस में टीम में MBF टीम में ट्रायल लिया था, जहाँ मैं सिलेक्ट हुआ था। तो मैं पहले ऐसे ही था जो एक स्कूल जाता था, भाग जाता था, इधर उधर घूमता रहता था फालतू, और काफ़ी लड़कों के साथ इधर उधर ऐसे कभी मैं चुटकी वगैरह भी खा ले लेता था। फिर मैं जब मुझे अच्छा लगने लगा कि मैं जो फिर धीरे धीरे मैं अपने आप ही आदत में नहीं छूटने लग गई मेरे से। फिर जब मैं क्या नाम है PI से मिला तो उन्होंने मुझे, मेरा एक स्कूल था जो गवर्नमेंट था पहले अपने इधर, फिर वहाँ पर मेरा एडिशन साउथ मोदी फुटबॉल के स्कूल में एडिशन करवाया। जिससे मैं काफ़ी टूर्नामेंट खेला, सुबोध कप, जतन वेदी, कुंडो कप वगैरह। फिर वहाँ पर मेरा सिलेक्शन एक अकेडमी में भी नित्य भाई और सती भाई ने करवाया, जो बाइकिंग फुटबॉल अकेडमी की। वहाँ भी मैं काफ़ी अच्छे दिल्ली लीग A डिवीजन वगैरह खेला, सीनियर डिवीजन भी खेला। और फिर मैं जो उसमें काफ़ी रहा। फिर मेरी फैमिली जो थी वो भी मेरे से पहले खुश नहीं थी कि ऐसे ही जब आता है स्कूल से भाग जाता था, घूमता रहता था उधर उधर। तो मेरी फैमिली ने भी काफ़ी खुश हुई, मेरी फैमिली मेरे से, कि अब ये लड़का पहले ऐसे ही था, घूमता रहता था, आप ही करके को अभी जब से मैजिक बस में आया यानी क्या हो गया से अब ये कोई अपना काम से काम पढ़ाई और अपना खेल कूद। फिर मैंने सोचा कि जैसे मेरे में बदलाव आ गया, ऐसे मैं अपनी कम्युनिटी में भी चेंज ला सकता हूँ। तो फिर मैं सेशन जब मैं लेने जाता था तो कुछ बच्चे थे जो नहीं आते थे, जो स्मोक वगैरह गुटखे वगैरह खाते थे, तो कुछ बच्चे थे जो आ जाते थे, तो वो बच्चे नहीं आते थे। फिर मैंने ऐसी वो एक दिन खेल लेते बच्चे कुछ, तो वो जो स्मोक करते थे वो बच्चे नहीं आ रहे थे। तो एक बार ऐसी एक बच्चा उसमें से उठ के आता है, कहता भाई मैं भी खेलूँगा। मैंने नहीं यार तुम ऐसी बेकार हो। तो फिर वो बच्चे नहीं, वो आया, वो खेला। फिर मैंने उससे स्मोक वगैरह के बारे में बातचीत करी एक सेशन के बाद, तो वो कहते कि हम नहीं छोड़ेंगे। तो काफ़ी ऐसी डिस्कशन बात चलती रही। फिर एक टूर्नामेंट था, एक ऐसी प्लेनरी टूर्नामेंट ओपन, मैं उन्हें वहाँ खिलाने ले गया। जब वो वहाँ पर खेलने लगे तो वो सेमीफाइनल तक पहुँचे थे, पर लेकिन वो वहाँ पर हार गए। तो वहाँ पर काफ़ी बड़े ट्रॉफी मेडल थे, सेलिब्रेट थे। तो वो बाद में आके बोलते हैं कि हम तो जीत जाते, ये हार गए। मैंने बोला तो ये अपनी गलती से तुमने हारा है। तो फिर वो बच्चों ने धीरे धीरे स्मोक वगैरह ये छोड़ना कम करा और उनकी अपने आप ही उनमें बदलाव आ गया। फिर उनकी जो फैमिली थी वो भी खुश हुई कि ये तो हम भी नहीं कर पाए जो तूने कर दिखाया हुआ है। तो काफ़ी मतलब अब मेरी कम्युनिटी में चेंज आया। जो पहले थे जो मुझे तू तरह से बोलते थे मेरी कम्युनिटी वाले, अब वो मेरे से मतलब तरीके से बात करते हैं और काफ़ी मतलब चेंजेस आया है। थैंक यू।
For the benefit of, yeah.
So just for, lots of people followed what Shivam said, and I think the spirit of it was quite evident. Basically, he's talked about a journey, his own journey, from being a young boy who just went to school and then used to roam around in the streets and, on his own or with his friends and indulge in a few bad habits. From being that child to a child who's a role model in the community now, mentoring other children to stop various bad habits. So he's basically related that journey. So he started off by talking about how he joined Magic Bus, how he knew nothing about it, but he was intrigued by the fact that children play in a group, and so he approached mentors there and spoke to them, and they enrolled him in the program. And he says that as he started playing and as he got involved in the game, he stopped a number of bad habits. So there's something called chutki, which is a little packet of, it's not it is tobacco based, I think. Okay, so he used to have that sometimes, and he completely stopped that after he began playing football. He's also talked about the fact that he used to go to government school earlier. From there he moved to a school where there was some kind of training in football. He's learned a bit of English. He got selected in an academy. He played senior division. Obviously, this is something that's really important to him, this movement into a senior level of playing football. And he talked about how his family used to think of him as just another child who roamed the streets and went to school and didn't do very much with his life. And now they're looking at him being a completely responsible young man who does the Magic Bus sessions, goes to school, does a bit of study, takes his football seriously. So the way his family looks at him has changed. Perhaps for me, one of the nicest things he said was about the fact that he wants to now encourage other children in his community to develop the same way that he did, to have the same opportunities that he did. And so he's talking about the fact that he's now a mentor in the community, conducting sessions with children, and he realized there are some children who don't come to the session and who also consume various substances. So when they approached him asking to be allowed to play, he said, no, you can't because you smoke or you chew tobacco and that's not really a nice thing. And they said, well, these are our habits and we're not going to change them. So he said, well, whatever. But slowly they began playing together and they went for a tournament. At the tournament, it so happened that they performed really well, but they lost the semi-finals. So he took that opportunity to link their bad habits to the loss, talking about the fact that if you are not chewing tobacco or things like that, you'd probably be healthier and you'd probably have more stamina, so you'd probably play better, so you'd probably have a better chance at winning. And he just thinks that this kind of thing encourages people to stop substance consumptions, and he thinks that this works. And he feels that because of this, he's kind of got respect in the community and people look at him differently, and I think that's something he's tremendously proud of.
Yeah, thank you, Havovi. So we'll kick off now and I'll introduce the topic over here, grassroots sports and development. So we sort of divide this into two categories. That, you know, what the experience of Shivam, what have we translated for our foreign guests, is grassroots sports basically to take people away from all sorts of malpractices, avoid smoking, drugs, violence. Is grassroots sports only for that category? You know, is it a way to a healthy life, to a more disciplined life? To get people also, especially in a country with a vast cultural diversity like India, that it gets very important that people of different communities and all play together, so that the various stereotypes which unfortunately Delhi has been witnessing in the last week can get blurred or removed. Sports can play a major role. So that is one aspect of grassroots sports, to get people out of boredom, out of all sorts of other type of nefarious activities and into sport. At the next stage, the whole idea of competitive sport is that we always have this saying from coaches that, you know, from quantity will come quality. So from grassroots sports, is there a very thin dividing line between people participating in large numbers and then developing into quality? You know, what is a active participation in sports and what role does grassroots sports play in that? So I think these are the categories I'd like all our distinguished speakers to focus on. And you know, they all have different areas of experience, from All India Football Federation to Australia, Kenya to Haryana, which is probably one of the most successful states in promotion of sports in India. So they can all share their experiences. And I'll request, first of all, as we are talking about really grassroots development, that Suvrat Thatte, Development Manager, All India Football Federation, who is working on grassroots football. So to give his contribution, he works for the All India Football Federation, responsible for strategic planning, implementation of grassroots program, which technical director, a very senior person, Mr. Rob Band from Netherlands, has set across. So he works with the technical director academies, and he holds an MBA in football business from the University of Liverpool, has worked with the Asian Football Confederation. So I'll request Subrat to kick off proceedings. We all speakers have about 8 to 10 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I represent the All India Football Federation, and as part of grassroots sports session, I'm going to speak a little bit about grassroots football and grassroots football development program that the All India Football Federation has initiated. A little bit information about what are our objectives, what is the philosophy, what we want to achieve out of it. So I'll just give a quick overview of the program. The AIFF aligns itself with the FIFA definition of grassroots, which is football for kids, boys and girls, between 6 to 12 years of age. We started the grassroots development program in December 2012. The program is primarily driven through state football associations, but is inclusive of all stakeholders, which includes football clubs, both amateur and professional, schools, NGOs, and community initiatives. The program has rapidly expanded, now spread to 6 states who have adopted our program in the long term, or for the long term. To give examples, we now have on board Mizoram, Manipur, Maharashtra, Goa, Chandigarh, and Kerala, who are now our project states for the Grassroots program. Just to list out some key achievements that we have had in the last little over a year. We finished second in the Asian Football Confederation Annual Awards 2013 for Grassroots Member Association of the Year, which basically recognizes efforts in grassroots football across all member associations of the AFC. We've now partnered with the Football Federation of Australia through the Australian Sport Outreach Program. Tom is there as well from there, which is helping us to further our grassroots initiatives in India. FIFA and AFC too have recognized AIF's efforts in grassroots and have extended significant support for the program over the last year or so. What are the key features of grassroots football? FIFA defines grassroots football as to allow access to football to a child in his or her own environment. In short, what we also say is, if a child cannot come to football, let us bring football to the child. Essentially meaning that football, grassroots football has to spread in every nook and corner of each region. It has to attract young players to the sport, create a fun, safe and a positive environment for the child. It should be inclusive. Football is for everyone, irrespective of skin color, gender, ethnicity, nationality, etc. Grassroots football can be played anywhere and everywhere. It consists of small-sided games and age-specific activities. Development objectives have to come before winning. That is one of the key fundamentals of grassroots sport and essentially grassroots football. It allows for flexible organization and with modest requirements. So that's some of the key essential features of grassroots football. Now we are going to focus on two topics specifically today. One is to locate and establish the importance of grassroots football in an Indian context. Secondly, what are the importance of, and benefits of a federated structure in the effective implementation of grassroots programs. Let me start with the first topic. As you can see here, this is what we call as the football pyramid. Grassroots football is at the base of this football pyramid. This leads into academies and youth football, going on to semi-professional or amateur football, leading to the professional game, which in India, for example, is the I-League, and finally going to the pinnacle, the elite, which is the national team. Now, grassroots football forms the base of the playing pyramid, as we all saw in the diagram. A strong foundation provides for a strong football structure. It benefits all levels of the game. It is important to focus on grassroots football as it has visible football and societal benefits, both which are very significant in a country like India. Now let us first look at what are the football benefits of starting a good grassroots program. FIFA defines the golden age of learning as between 8 and 12 years of age. So if we focus on training the kids in the right manner at that age, it definitely reaps benefits in the future, because the kids have a very good, they can adapt, they can learn very quickly at this age. It increases participation in the sport. More children will have regular access to the sport. It widens the base of the football pyramid. More participants playing regularly will give a bigger and hopefully a better talent pool for the future. It helps identify talent early, so we can guide them through the pathway for elite football. It allows young and eager coaches to get involved in the game as a first step into their coaching careers. An early introduction of children to football will help develop an affinity and loyalty towards the game. This leads to a long-term involvement in the sport in various capacities. Maybe some players can make it as elite players, the others can still play the sport as amateur players, some will get involved in coaching, refereeing, become administrators. So an early connect with the sport at that age will help develop an affinity for the child towards the game. Now, as a federation, of course, the football development is key when we look at grassroots sport. but it definitely does have overlaps with some societal benefits, which are very, very essential. Now, what are the societal benefits of the sport? Football is the best teacher. It teaches you the values of life. Football has the power to change lives and make a difference to people across the world. It's important to harness that power to achieve social change. It's an excellent platform to inculcate good social values and skills in kids, such as mutual respect, teamwork. It's essential that we inculcate these good habits in children early. It leads to some personal development, such as confidence building, free expression. Emphasizes the importance of a healthy lifestyle early amongst kids through exercise and playing regularly. Grassroots coaches can also introduce the importance of nutrition to the parents in small ways to the children. So, in a sense, this provides us with a very good platform to give good values to the kids, what normally a parent would want their child to know and to learn at that age. Now we come to the second aspect of our discussion, which essentially is about a federated structure in the implementation of a grassroots program. Now obviously, as being the national federation, we have members who are state associations. So our grassroots program is primarily driven through these state associations, which come under the overall umbrella of the All India Football Federation. Our members, again, as I mentioned, are state football associations, union territory football associations, the Railway Sports Board, and the Services Sports Control Board. A federated structure allows the AIFF to create and implement an inclusive program in each state, together with the state associations, with the involvement of key stakeholders. What we do as part of our program is go to each state, each project state, identify what are the specific needs of each state, and then develop a tailor-made program for that state, which caters to those specific requirements. So a federated structure for us as the national federation helps us guide grassroots football through the national football hierarchy in a correct manner, so that we ensure that it reaches the lowest tier of our football hierarchy, which is the district associations and their members, going right up till the national federation. Currently, 6 states have adopted our program full-time, and in the long term, AIFF aims to have all states through the state associations adopt our grassroots program. We now have full-time personnel in each of the project states, a development officer who is basically responsible to oversee and implement the grassroots program, which I think in a lot of states in India is the first time that something like this is happening, where full-time personnel are looking into a program. So that's a key achievement for us as well. Now, what are the benefits of having a federated structure for grassroots football? As I mentioned, each state has different conditions and requirements with regard to grassroots football. The objective is to be able to provide solutions and plans accordingly. Just to give an example, we have 2 project states, one Maharashtra and Mizoram. Maharashtra has a population of 110 million, Mizoram has a population of 1 million. So you can see the difference in the size, the demographics, the specific requirements of each of the states. So it's very essential that we, along with the state associations, develop something that is very specific to that particular state. State football associations, again, are best placed to understand and address the needs of their state. It provides easy accessibility and a better connect to all the local state football stakeholders. It gives us better administration, better governance, and better monitoring of the project, and it addresses all specific aspects of GR effectively. What we have also introduced as part of our system is a unique concept of a certification program for all grassroots centers. A grassroots center essentially can mean a club, a school, or an NGO or a community initiative, which basically delivers grassroots programs on a day-to-day basis. So through a certification, these grassroots centers can get certified by the state association and then get into the mainstream of grassroots football of the AIFF. this is a brief idea how our grassroots hierarchy works. So it's the All India Football Federation at the top, the State Football Association, which is our project association, which penetrates down into each and every district, and then we have schools, football clubs, and NGOs, which are part of the district association, and to whom basically we want the grassroots football program to penetrate to. Again, it is vitally important that all stakeholders work very closely with state associations and the AIFF to create an inclusive, sustainable, and a strong grassroots football structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukrit. As we have national coach of India and Mr. Wim Povermans with us, and who won Euro 1988 with Netherlands, I'd just like him to briefly come up and, the importance of this grassroots program for developing a national team. Earlier in India, we used to have small clubs who did all this, but with economic pressures, many of them have died off. So, why do we need this program, and how is it essential for a professional coach like him, Wim Povermans?
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. Suvrat, well done. It was a good presentation, so I hope everybody gets an idea of what the Football Association is doing. You might ask yourself, national team coach, what is he doing here? That's a good question. First of all, I work in India now for nearly 2 years. I learned a lot, I've seen a lot, and as Suvrat already mentioned, we recently started with a master plan to develop football in India, because that's our job. We are the specialists in football, we develop football. So Suvrat already mentioned there's an overlap, because many of you work to use sports to have effects for kids in areas that are probably not the best areas in society. We had a great example of our young friend here coming out of a poor neighborhood, and he has his dream of probably he wants to become a professional football player, yes? Look at his smile, it's beautiful. So these are the effects that are beautiful. Kids come out of the slums and start playing sports, whether it's football or any other sport, and then all of a sudden their life changes, and that is really beautiful. Once I worked for the Football Association in Holland, and I went to Nairobi in Kenya, and there's also a huge slum area with 4 million people, and in that slum, over the years, they worked on programs like everybody here in the audience is working on. They created an own football competition in the slums of Matare, and the football club was existing from Matare United. You know that? Yeah, are you from there? That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So what I'm telling you now is you know what I'm talking about. And in that in the time I was there, I think there were 20,000 kids playing a football competition every weekend, and they organized it themselves. But besides that, there were many other programs like writing and reading and becoming photographers, and it was just a beautiful organization of the slums using sport to get kids out of their misery or their bad life every day. And in the end, what I heard is that even 6 players from the national team were out of that competition in slums. So now you see the overlap, and my presence here is that so many kids get the opportunity to play football. And again, he's a great example of that. Our job is now, when the kids play football and they really love to play football, we take it further down the line, because we want to bring them into a circuit or into an organization where they can develop their football talents, and in the end, when they're good enough, they might come into the national team. So that is a beautiful overlap of the programs that everybody here in the audience is running, and we are a specific organization, and we want to develop football first of all, give the kids the opportunity to become professional player. If not, they can still play football because they love to play football. So that is kind of the overlap that is here, and that's why I'm here as a national team coach, because we really benefit from, and Suvrat showed it, there's this pyramid. It starts on grassroots. Lots of kids want to play football, and we have to give them the opportunity to play football. And if they play football every week, then we bring them into systems so we can monitor them, we can scout them, and once the pyramid becomes smaller and smaller, because the better players will reach the top, then my job is much easier, because we have many more kids with great qualities that can play football at the highest level. So it starts all from that broad basis of giving kids the opportunity. Then they come into the structures of the AIFF, and we give them the best training and the best opportunities to play football. So I want to congratulate everybody on the work that you do, because it's really beautiful work, and I've seen myself that it gives kids a great opportunity and a much better future. So thanks again for that. So this was my short explanation why the national team coach of India is here. We cannot work without the grassroots. Thanks for your story. It was really beautiful, and I wish you all the best of luck with your dream of becoming a football player, and hopefully you will succeed in that. So thanks everybody. This is my short contribution, and I wish everybody good luck in whatever you do with all the kids. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Governance, for very nicely explaining the link between grassroots football and how it can help in getting players to even reach the top level. So all people like Magic Bus, all these organizations like Magic Bus, like Football Link, who are doing all this work with young people, you can feel happy that you're participating. It's a double effect. You're not just helping in social amelioration, but also, hopefully, from this vast quantity of players that emerge, some will come to the top. Anyway, let's move on. We now come to a person, Mr. O.P. Singh, who represents Haryana. I share a small anecdote. When the Commonwealth Games in Delhi in 2010, when we calculated, India did exceptionally well, as most host countries do, and we came second just after Australia. They always win the Commonwealth Games. And for once we beat England, we came second, I think, for the first time. We calculated that majority of those medals which India got were by sportsmen and women from Haryana. 1/3, over about, if I memory, 36 to 38 medals were by sportsmen and women from Haryana. And if Haryana had participated as a country, they would have come 5th in the Commonwealth Games. Australia, England, India, Canada, and Haryana and New Zealand together. So they have one state which is really a small state, newly formed state. They don't have that much of a history, but have really taken sports at a very serious level, have followed a lot of what Wim Kovermans and Subrat talked about the grassroots level. Maybe not in football, but in a lot of other sports, wrestling, athletics, boxing, even hockey, especially women's hockey. The bulk of the team comes from Haryana. So, Mr. O.P. Singh is, former Haryana Sports Director in the government of Haryana, and he started this very iconic program, Play for India. And he has a very interesting book also, Say Yes to Sports, and in which he chronicles sports' role in India's evolution as a country. And widely respected professional, I'll let O.P. Singh take over.
Clap for me also. Good morning, and nearly you can say three-quarter good morning and 1/4 good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Mr. Kapadia. And I absolutely have no qualification to be here. I'm a career police officer. Subrat is a kind of a graduate in MBA in sports management from Liverpool, and we have a national football coach. So okay, I'm a small man walking into a big shoes. So please don't expect too much from me. Just to kind of make this a little more tolerable. I understand what it is like in third, fourth, fifth to speak in morning session, and you're not really awake. So I just want to make things easier for you. So it is a kind of melting the ice, breaking the ground, whatever you say. So we quickly go through 2-3 slides. शुरू से शुरू करिए. We have got an Innovin magazine, St. Petroda and kind of these people edit it and they document innovations, which is a quarterly magazine. They have documented our grassroots program as our outstanding innovation. धीरे धीरे दिखाइए. Please allow people to see. They have heard enough. So they have a column of change makers. So we had this scholarship program for attracting young children to sports that they featured as outstanding innovation. And mind it attracts 2 million children every year to the playgrounds. So kind of some kind of. And Subrat will be interested in it. It has a kind of numericalized sports management in India. It is heavily data driven. It is not about conjecture, guessing, or inspirational talks. It's data based. So I have this write up on the mail, and Pratik may like to, the Magic Bus may like it to mail it to all the participants. So one missing link in management and sports in India is about missing data. We don't talk about data. We talk lots about, we regret our lowest standing in sports. And then we aspire how what we can be. We are a big country, but we somehow in a way miss out on data. So this is one slide I wanted to share with you. Another is the coverage of NDTV. So I think it's just to have variations in our conversations so that I can communicate better. If you find my name and photograph here, it is not aimed at personalizing the achievements. It is the achievement of thousands of people and the government. I'm just kind of standing here on behalf of them.
Done by sports consultancy firm Winning Matters has ranked Haryana as the #1 state in terms of promoting sports in India. And that's not surprising given that Haryana sports people won a third of the 101 medals India won at the Commonwealth Games. So what exactly does Haryana do differently? Take a look at some of those unique initiatives.
Haryana may have the worst sex ratio in the country, but they do have something to brag about. India won 101 medals at last year's Commonwealth Games. Of this, 32 came from Haryanvi athletes, and that doesn't even include the likes of Saina Nehwal, who now live elsewhere. Incentives for athletes include government jobs, and now there are special schemes to unearth more talent. 3 years ago, Haryana started the SPAT, or the Sports and Physical Aptitude Test. Open trials such as this one are open to children from the age of 8 to 18.
A parent finds, rather than investing in real estate, invest in a child if he is a SPAT scholarship holder. So we in Haryana want to make sports as productive a career option as higher studies. The agenda is simple. So I say it's cool to play. You should play.
So how does the SPAT scheme work? Children are put through 7 different tests ranging from an 800-meter run and a broad jump. Children are tested by a government-appointed coach. Anyone scoring 75% in the SPAT, then they are entitled to a scholarship. 1,500 per month for 8 to 14 years and 2,000 for 15 to 19 years. However, the rider is that these kids have to spend 22 days of the month playing their chosen sport.
It's a feeling as if I'm growing up and earning my money and I'm happy to contribute to my family. I participated in SCAT in 2009 and it was a nice experience. I got to know that I'm good in short running. So now I go for sports movements and I also won some medals.
The annual Haryana State Olympics have also played their part in making sports a much sought after vocation.
हरियाणा की सिर्फ 2% जनता है पूरे देश में, लेकिन कॉमनवेल्थ खेलों के अंदर 40% मेडल हरियाणा के खिलाड़ियों ने लिए.
The Sports Minister Ajay Markan has been so impressed by Haryana's model that he asked them to make a presentation to all state sports ministers. In fact, a recent FICCI study named Haryana as the #1 state in terms of sports promotion.
With initiatives like SPAC, the government of Haryana has clearly proved that there is no spat between the government and the students. And do the students agree?
It's good to play!
Once more!
It's good to play!
There's your answer with camera person Prem Singh and Manoj Kumar, Ashish Bhatia for NDTV.
So I have already taken so much of time out of 10 minutes that I've been giving. But the idea is that I have documented this experience in this book. And Mr. Sasi Tharoor has went on to say it is a remarkable book. And I hope it sparks a revolution in the school sports across the country. It should not be taken very seriously. It is a polite endorsement of the book. There is nothing magical in it. It is simply, as I understand sports, the way Magic Bus sees it and the government sees it and I see it, there are fundamental differences. What I see, I like saying augmented mainstream. A story was going on what Sachin Tendulkar should do after his retirement. And there were many suggestions. He should join politics, he was popular, and if Imran Khan has failed in Pakistan, he can work in India. But I personally felt we have enough of politicians who are trying their best to reduce social inequality or take the country on the path of development. Sachin should look beyond. Basically, Magic Bus should have called me for speaking on peace and development in sports. I will take this time because we have already introduced our part of the mandate for grassroots sports. So what is happening in Central and South Asia? Youths have been condemned as a threat to global peace. They have been condemned to drug, condemned to violence. And we all are witness to the situation that counter-violence is not helping. You have more recruits in radical outfits than ever. And they have struck very decisive blows. When I grew up in schools and colleges, I joined the government and I joined the workforce. I had open access to hotels and public places and there was not many people around guarding us. So sports can be a very, very effective intervention in conflict zone. All the income and employment opportunities that are aspirational are mostly limited to sets of reading, writing, debating and accounting. When it comes to athletic skill, there is not much of opportunities. So when we in India or in Central or South Asia or anywhere in the world, when they say people are not taking to sports, the reason may be two. One is lack of awareness. If parents understand that sports is important for development of key personality differentiators like competitiveness, perseverance, commitment, they will ask the children to go and play. There is lack of awareness. If they know that it impacts the cognitive processes favorably, it is important for community building, which makes one a team leader, they will say go and play. So one is awareness, and another is lack of realistically achievable career opportunities. Not everybody can go and play an Indian team and make some money. So we have to make district level sports achievements, you can say, realistically achievable and rewarding also. Block level sporting achievements. A district level student gets a good career option, you will agree with me. He can become a doctor, an engineer, or whatever. But a district level player has no future. So don't blame kids if they don't take to sports and don't blame parents if they don't send kids to sports. So So we have to augment the mainstream, we have to open up the mainstream. And coming back to Sachin Tendulkar, he is kind of person who is known, who is respected, who is admired. It takes 40 years to produce a Sachin Tendulkar, and he should put his brand to better use. And from this platform, I said he should be kind of working to reclaim youth in Central and South Asia particularly, who have been condemned to violence, who have been condemned to drug, and who are progressively seen as a threat to world peace. We need somebody to talk for them, to talk to them. Why there can't be Manchester United operating from Kabul, or Liverpool from, you can say, from Pakistan, Waziristan. So unless you give them income and employment opportunities around their, what say, fighting skills. They are fighters, they live in tough terrains, in our Naxal areas, in our Jammu and Kashmir. So they live in tough terrains, and they don't have access to mainstream career options like management, doctor, those kind of things. They are good at fighting, they live in tough conditions. So why their violent tendencies cannot be sublimated into kind of realistically achievable income and employment opportunities? So my take is that in situations where you find the youth are being lost out to violence, sublimate their violent instincts. Sports is basically a mock fight. So if they fight, mock fighting is rewarding, there is every chance that they will not go for it. People are basically intelligent. They make choices that they think are good for them. So just Sachin is kind of just a rider. Just trying to, people like him should talk for the youth and talk for how sports can make a difference in breaking the barriers that is creeping up between the mainstream population and those alienated youth. Even Taliban respects him. A journalist misquoted Taliban by saying that we will not stop praising Sachin only because he's an Indian. The Taliban said. And there was a coverage in newspaper that Taliban says, no praising Sachin or we will kill you. So Taliban then again went after the journalist who misquoted them. So my idea is that we all community leaders, we should kind of go after and promoting sports as an income and employment opportunities around athletic skills, so that enterprising youth who cannot find access to mainstream through reading, writing and debating skills and accounting skills, they can deploy their athletic skill and feel part of the mainstream or livelihood. So we have that. I will conclude with our model of sports promotion. So it's basically PIE model, P-I-E. P is participation that Subrat is doing. He is making more and more people to participate for the sake of playing. They will not become a career athlete. No problem. But they should play because it will make them entrepreneurial. It will make them more competitive. In classrooms, you learn so many things that are very valuable in work life. But commitment, perseverance, and competitiveness, you learn only in contact games. So game is important for a population to be entrepreneurial. And there is inclusion. Why only rich should play? Why only able-bodied should play? Why not poor also? And why not disabled also? So we are also for inclusion. In Haryana, we have made sporting achievement equally rewarding for the both. And then excellence. So I think excellence takes away lots of resources and discussion and kind of things when we talk about sports. But it is time for us to take note and say, participation is important, inclusion is important, sports is key for. Can you please roll it down? So these are basically summing up things for you that I try to talk. That one very interesting thing, I'm basically a kind of a police officer who was taken to sports to make a difference. So I educated myself how to manage the sports. So one way was to do is to Google. So when I Googled sports in ancient India, we had 29 million links. And when I Googled the sports in medieval India, it is 4.9 million links. The difference of 300 times. So can it be said that in medieval time, we are poor at mock fight, so we had more attacks from the Hindus, and we were subjugated for 1,000 years. So I say sports is far more important than we really understand. And then it has positive correlations with, you can say, cognitive growth, personality development, community development, social inclusion, and youth engagement. We all understand what does it mean. And I said it is possible if we have imaginative incentive architecture, and ours is a rights-based governance. You understand, Mr. Kapadia, we have locked in lots of real estate and resources in the name of sports. But when you want to go and see where a Commonwealth village is, when you want to take your kids over there, no entry, not allowed. So I basically feel let power go to the people. In developing countries where government's delivery system is not to the people's satisfaction, so there is a need for giving right to the people. Like a Commonwealth village, there is one stakeholder, he maintains a website. If you want to play there, if you want to go there, it should be accessible to you as a matter of right. Not because one custodian says that you are not allowed in. So it is time to audit our sports resources and throw it open to the people as a matter of right. So I say the rights-based governance is the way forward. Like right to information, we have a right to play also. Schools have licenses and they have conditions for promoting sports. They don't fulfill it. Parents should have a right. So we need to make it into some kind of rights for the people. Access to optimum or access to optimum recreational physical activity as a matter of right. So I say people should have right to play. And we need to build it, as I said, a sports service sector industry. The moment you make a stadium or you organize a tournament, thousands of industries pick up: hospitality, construction, transportations, you can say merchandise, so many things, which is basically a core sector industry. Why you are treating it as a leisure? You can do without it. It is like tourism, it is a service sector industry. And then it is a developmental program, like in Naxal areas or secessionist area, or you can Central Asia where you have alienated youth. So you can reclaim them back to their convenience. The sports can give them an access ramp to the mainstream. They can deploy their fighting skills into sports and earn a livelihood. So I'm sorry I have delivered a heavy talk, but I tried to communicate. And I thank Magic Bus and thank Mr. Kapadia for giving me time. And thanks for the recording. Thank you.
For a very comprehensive analysis of what sports has done in Haryana. We now move on, and Mr. Stephen Sonderman, Asian Director, One World Football Project. He's the Asian Director, he's running the idea, to play you need equipment also. That is also very important. There are various aspects to sports. Playing field, equipment, people sometimes cannot afford it. So every aspect is interrelated and everybody contributes in sort of sports and society. And Mr. Sundarman has had a long experience of working, and he was also Southeast Asia Regional Director for Spirit and Soccer, and with projects in the Southeast Asia region, primarily Laos and Cambodia. I'll ask him to take over.
Good morning, my name is Stephen Sonderman. Thank you very much, Mr. Kapadia, for that introduction. It's wonderful. Also, thank you for Shivam. Excellent. I love hearing your stories. That's what kind of drives most of the people in this room. We have a short video I'll show first for One World Football Project.
Soccer has become one of the few places where kids can find safety in Ciudad Juarez. With the US border cutting a jagged line across its northern edge, this dusty desert Mexican border town is known as one of the world's most dangerous cities.
In 2010, we were named the most violent city in the world outside war zones. It was just awful. I mean, we had the most important drug cartels in the whole North America here in Ciudad Juarez fighting, because this is a natural pathway for drugs to go into the United States. We needed programs like this. We really needed programs like this.
behind these walls, something is changing for Juarez with a little help from the One World Footballs donated by Chevrolet. The program called Aganar uses the lessons learned through soccer to give at-risk teens a shot at life.
Aganar's slogan is, I believe in the power of football to change lives, and we truly believe in that.
Aganar does that through a three-phase plan.
Phase number 1, that's pure soccer and all the things that soccer teaches the kids. Phase number 2, that's technical training. Phase number 3, that's interviews.
The lessons the kids learn gives them the skills to get a job. But like this troubled town itself, the path to success is rough, with broken glass and rocks littering the tire-lined pitch.
Aganar means to win. That's basically what these kids are doing with this One World Football. They're winning. I mean, you've seen the kids with your own eyes. They're winning a better future for themselves and for their families also.
If this ball can't deflate, then I won't be deflated either. I aim to keep going.
Pues yo quiero ser como este balón. Que I want to be like this ball. A lot of people will bring you down, but you can bring yourself up and be full of life.
A ball has given these kids a reason to believe. It's created change, and hopefully it will help a community that sees so much despair find that life and the future are like the labyrinth that sits in the center of this safe and almost surreal place.
This labyrinth here symbolizes the paths that these kids have to go through. You know, all the turns and twists along the road, all the difficulties they have to overcome in order to achieve their goals. In the end of the program, the kids have finished all the 3 phases. They have pretty much overcome all these difficulties that life had for them. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's a big thing in Juarez. That's what it's all about.
Chevrolet, founding sponsor of One World Football Project. Join us to share the power of play.
Thank you. I'll have to beg your pardon, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, so I'm going to be running through the PowerPoint in a PDF file. So, firstly, just in respect to the discussion today, especially grassroots sports for training and grassroots sports for social good are not mutually exclusive. Today I'm speaking more from a different element, as Mr. Company pointed out, is the equipment side of it. I have particular experience in this because I ran programs in Laos and Cambodia where it was for Spirit of Soccer, and we were teaching children about landmines, how to avoid landmines by using football and soccer. One of our major issues and costs were our footballs, because we would basically provide the footballs to the communities. Both countries are relatively similar in their average monthly wage for the parents is roughly $61. So buying a $6 to $8 football is just not in the equation. Same thing goes for the Ministry of Education. They just do not have the funds for it. So actually having the equipment or the resources, even the fields, is a very difficult thing. And providing a football that lasts is incredibly important. And I saw that first thing, and I think most people in this room can relate to that experience. Play is a key component in grassroots football, and play and education work very well, and I'll be talking about play in the sense of the Southeast Asian version of grassroots, which is the word play. We don't necessarily relate to grassroots, and the English form, they use it more in the play. What drives me was a question that was asked me a few days ago, and I have been sports focused pretty much most of my life. I was fortunate enough to grow up in middle America, and we had an amazing grassroots sports system from an early age in the early 70s. I was playing 3 sports on teams by the time I was 5.5 years old. Specifically in basketball, for instance, we had leagues called the midgets, where you just had a bunch of little kids that ran around, and the parents were the coaches. The parents had to go to training sessions to learn how to be a coach. You know, there were some good stories and bad stories, but all in all, you had an army of kids playing basketball. Also, an army of kids playing soccer, something that a lot of people don't understand about the United States is you think that we don't play soccer, but most kids start off playing soccer. and then they move into the other sports. So it's the largest participant sport for children in the United States, and it has been for a very long time. So I continued my focus on sports because early on I learned how to communicate with other kids, how to communicate with adults and coaches, how to get through fights. These are very important lessons that you learn early on, and it also builds your confidence. Winning builds your confidence. Losing emphasizes you in certain ways. You need to do both, and you need to learn from them. So as I got older, I ended up playing in collegiate sports. I played many sports in high school, and then basically throughout my life was a thread of sports. I adopted climbing later on in life, and I became a lead climber and a guide internationally in Europe and in North America. Very different from those team sports I was playing earlier, but also lessons to be learned. The confidence that I gained from the grassroots sports that I was part of early on are what gave me the opportunity to be a climber, for instance. I took that information that I had, and I also moved into the sports marketing field. I worked for Adidas for many years, for North Face, and then eventually took a position as director of an NGO in Cambodia and running the one, and also opening the new one in Laos. So I used all of that sports knowledge, confidence that I learned, and I owe it all to my grassroots upbringing that brought me to the point that I am and my successes in sports today. And my motivation is just to that point. Sports, what drives me? Sports, play, evolutionary science, human spirit, and innovation. I'm here representing One World Football Project, which is innovation in its basic definition. It's a ball that does not need a needle and does not need a pump, which is something that I know many of you understand is a very key aspect of this to a piece of sports equipment. Play, as a definition, is a range of voluntary, intrinsic, motivated activities normally associated with pleasure and enjoyment. I would completely agree with that. The power of play is universal. Before we can walk and talk, we play. Barriers are lifted. Religious, political, socioeconomic differences are forgotten and set aside, and play is born out of passion. One World Football Project's goal is a world where children have hope for a better future. These are children in Myanmar. Our mission is to enable children the world over to discover their own heroic potential by helping to keep the spirit of play alive. It's all about play for us. How do we do this? It's the ball. It never goes flat. It's an amazing invention. I think a few of them might be passed around here. Definitely play with it. You can take a samurai sword and stab it, and it will go right back to the shape it's in. It'll actually perform the same way as well. I know it's an amazing thought, but it actually does work. It's not the ball that Wayne Rooney and crew want to use in the heavy competition matches, but it is the ball that gives kids that opportunity to get to that point. Just having the ball is the key. We did a Uganda test, or actually UNICEF did the Uganda test. In 2011, they conducted a 4-month test in Uganda comparing the One World footballs to normal inflated footballs, regular use at 80 primary schools. Basically, over the course of 1 week, 75% of the inflated balls had failed, 100% within 1 month. That's 80 balls. And that's about normal for what I found with the organization that I ran. We were going through about 10,000 balls per year. As far as the One World footballs, 99% of them are still in existence in these communities. One of them was just disappeared. So imagine when somebody else has it. But they don't have the destroyed ball. Our 5 to 7 year goal is to positively impact the lives of over 300 million youths living at risk in at-risk situations by getting 10 million balls into play in the world. Our social impact over the last year, 700,000 balls put into play, 19 million lives positively touched, 170 countries, 340 community partners, many here in India right now. Our grassroots football partners that we've just some of the stories similar to the story here in Juarez, street soccer in Mexico, Football United in Myanmar, Salt Academy in Cambodia, Kick for Life in Lesotho. All amazing stories, and I can go into detail on each of them, but we don't have time for that. For community impact partners globally, right now we're looking at about 343. That number will be growing dramatically. And we're not even fully engrossed in India and China and Indonesia yet, which are definitely areas where we definitely need to get in the footballs into those countries. For the India football distribution, which basically just now is happening, obviously we know the population. 50% of the Indian population is aged 25 years under. Primary schools, secondary schools, ministries of sports, education, NGOs, the list, that's who we're working with. Distribution to over 50 plus sports for development organizations throughout India, and this is all with the help of our lead partner, Slim Soccer. Dr. Abhijit Varas has been incredibly helpful and facilitated the entire process with this team, which is not an easy process, as we all possibly have had experiences with bringing things into India. 22,000 of the balls reached, or will be reaching 700 plus children. This is the list of some of the partners, which many of you will recognize quite a few, and Kapadia already mentioned Football Link, Magic Bus, of course. And then global partners, which is very important for us, is we signed MOU with the AFC, AFDP, to deliver balls mostly through the federations. As you can see, this is not the entire list, but many member associations that we are involved with, and this list is growing immensely. Football Hope for Hope Centers, mostly in Africa, and then now some more in Brazil. Just grassroots football, absolutely pivotal to the long-term development of national team football. It's also a major social importance, promoting grassroots football and ensuring the long-term involvement of participants in the sport is a top priority. This is my email address if you need me, and I welcome your comments, and please do play around with the ball. You cannot destroy it. Well, you can. It's nearly indestructible. We give to lions, to elephants. They tried. We had a Lao chief cut the ball in half and made 2 bowls, but that was pretty much the only way. Or you could burn it, but it will hold up. And it's a really fantastic product for most of the work that we do. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen Sonderman, for this very illuminative and interesting talk. We move on now to Mr. Tom Calder, Trade Commissioner for Australian Trade Commission, based at the Australian High Commission in New Delhi. Australia, for many of us sports lovers in India, is a country we greatly envy. It's such a small population, arguably one of the most successful sporting countries in the world in terms of ratio of population. And of course, with India, we share a lot of links: hockey, cricket, Commonwealth Games. So we are very closely associated with Australian excellence in sports. And Tom is currently president of the Australian Rules Football Association of India. So a new game.
Good to see some fans here.
And introducing Indian children to Australian rules football. So I'll let Tom take over.
Thanks everyone, and nice to be here today. Any day that I get to step out of the office and come and talk about sport and listen to sport is a very, very good one. And as Australians, we could do that all day, every day, all week. So thanks very much for having me here today. As Novi said, I'm the president of the Australian Rules Football Association of India. Largely a ceremonial role behind the scenes, but it comes out of my passion for the game, having played it as a youngster and seeing what's on the ground here. I've been in India for 3 years now, working with the Australian High Commission. So, as Vim said, I've learnt a lot, I've seen a lot here, and it's been a fantastic roller coaster. So, thanks for having me here today. We're a young organisation which is still developing. We're a different game, we're a different sport. Some of you might not be aware of us. So we don't have a lot of lessons to share. I mean, Mr. Singh had some fantastic examples from Haryana. The football project is brilliant. What I wanted to do today, though, is just to explore some of the themes that I've been speaking to a few of you about and listening to around teamwork, fair play, equal access, gender equality, community interaction, development, and most importantly for kids, I think it's fun. I'd also like to meander through those themes, but also try and address Novi's point or question about whether grassroots sports is just for social development or it's for elite athlete development. And as Stephen said, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think they can serve both purposes, but you need to harness it in the right way. So anyway, I'm just going to take on a bit of a journey through the wonderful and exciting world of Australian football, both in Australia and India. So, as they say, a picture tells 1,000 words, and if technology is with us, I will give you, hopefully, an overview, briefly. Might need some sound. Okay, so it's not soccer, it's not rugby, it's a bit of a crazy sport. I actually think it's a perfect sport for India, having been here for 3 years. People call it Aussie no rules. It's a bit like India for me. It's frenetic, it's crazy, it's chaotic, but there is order in that chaos, and it's a beautiful, exciting, vibrant game. So for me, having lived here for 3 years, it reflects all of my experiences about India, and obviously I'm a little bit biased. The game itself started in the 1850s as a way to keep cricketers fit in the off-season. Someone's also explained it to me that we had to invent our own game in Australia because we got sick and tired of beating the English at all the games they invented. I'm not sure if that's true, and apologies to any of the Englishmen in the audience today. Fast forward to today, it's the biggest winter code in Australia. It's got the biggest TV revenues, biggest sponsorship revenues. Average crowds are around 30,000, which ranks it in the top 5 globally for professional codes, which is up there with NFL, baseball, English Premier League, Bundesliga. It also attracts the best young sporting talent in Australia, and I'll touch on that moving forward. But most importantly, it's a really good connector for our Indigenous population in Australia. They have a lot of issues in their communities. 2.5% of Australia's population are Indigenous, yet 10% of the athletes playing football at an elite level are Indigenous. So there's an over-representation there, and you find that going down through the levels as well. But what we have, looking at it from an outside perspective, is a crazy situation where you've got a game that's only played in Australia. There's no other semi-professional or professional leagues outside Australia. It now attracts the best athletes in Australia. They don't get paid more money. You know, they don't get the global exposure in comparison to basketball, soccer, rugby union. So why is that? And really, I think the case for AFL success has been built on grassroots sport, building the base of the pyramid and letting kids come through the system. So I'll give you another short video on how the AFL promotes this through their program, which is called AusKick. And we'll make some volumes here.
It's looking to play AFL fun and easy for boys and girls. Through weekly coaching sessions, they will learn the skills of the game just like their AFL heroes. By getting involved, they will be part of a great team, meet new friends and teammates, play non-contact AFL games, and most importantly, have fun with their friends. Imagine your child's excitement as they kick their first goal, making memories that'll last a lifetime. This is the Little Big Time.
So the language that they use in all their promotions is really around teamwork, getting together with friends, building some team spirit. But most importantly, it's fun. And that's why kids like playing sport, that's why they get involved. At the moment in Australia, the last census that they did on Auskick, which was 2012, is that they have around 850,000 kids in Australia playing Auskick at primary school level, and it's a program only open to kids from ages 5 to 12. Now, 850,000 kids in an Indian context or a European context isn't that impressive, or a North American context. But when you consider there's only 2 million kids in Australia of primary school age, it's quite remarkable. Basically, you have a case that 1 in 2 primary school kids will pay to play AFL outside school hours. And that's quite interesting, I think, and hopefully there's some lessons in that for how organisations like the AIFF go about their promotions here in India. One of the keys to success really is involving parents. We talked about basketball in the US doing that. Parents really are the driver of AFL Auskick in Australia. A lot of resources, the main parent sporting group invests a lot of time and money into making it accessible for parents. And really, when you look at the 7 points there about why you should become involved, I think that's across the world for all parents. Another success is that they really do target girls. So when you say 1 in 2 kids playing AFL football at primary school age, it's not just all the boys playing. There's a very, very hefty percentage that are girls as well. And they actually go out of their way to make sure girls are included as part of that. So it's a mixed sport up until the age of 12, where boys and girls play together. And past that, due to various physical differences, they split it up. But up to that point in time, boys and girls play the sport together. We've got a lot of growing engagement on the ground with the Indian community through AFL as well. What we've got here is a picture of a club website, the Essendon Football Club, which is 140 years old, probably one of the most famous clubs in Australia. They've carved out and created their own distinct Indian supporters group, and they run a number of events throughout the year designed to incorporate and include the Indian community in Australia as part of their club. Punjabi is the fastest growing language in Australia outside English, and the Indian community is a very large one in Melbourne. So there has been a bit of a disconnect between these new migrant groups coming through into Australia. If you're in Melbourne, the connection is through football, so we're seeing a lot more engagement by elite clubs to engage with very specific areas of the community, and very happy to see that Indian communities up there as well. Auskick internationally, it's played in a number of countries around the world now. It's not huge, but it is growing, and really the focus there is on giving kids access to a different sport and ensuring that they have some fun. So AFL in India started out in 2008 with this man here that most Indians would recognise as Ricky Ponting, a famous Australian cricketer. Really designed to see if we could get an Indian team come down to Melbourne to play in the International Cup, which is an amateur cup held every 3 or 4 years for every other country apart from Australia. And this handsome guy here with the football and the black and yellow top is the founder of AFL India and the driver, and he's standing up the back here, one of my heroes. Mr. Sudip Chakraborty. Fell in love with the game in 2008 and took it upon himself to really drive it here in India as another tool of engagement for kids, kids across the country. To this point in time, I think we've had around 2,500 kids go through programs, which is not bad for a very, very small organisation. With the assistance of Magic Bus and the Australian Sports Commission now, we're looking to roll that up to 6,000 next year, and from there hopefully we can grow it even more. So humble origins, but it's going strong. And this is a story about the growth here. You've got a number of different images of the game around. It's played in Mumbai up the top right there in the Dharavi slums. We've got a great story of middle class kids and slum kids mixing together and playing the sport. I don't think that happens very often in India. You've got the top left there, kids from Madurai, very indigenous, disadvantaged community playing the game. You've got kids playing in Goa and across the country. So the Magic Bus program and partnership will be taking this more formally now, rolling it up into more formal programs in Jharkhand, Rajasthan and Maharashtra, and it's already got a very strong base in West Bengal. We're also looking to take another Indian team down to the International Cup later this year. An Indian representative team will be playing against a whole bunch of different nations. India actually celebrated their first win at Australian rules football, which probably none of you are aware of, and they beat East Timor. It's not a traditional rivalry, but a win's a win, as we say, so another great start there. And what we've also got on the bottom right-hand side there is an initiative around the most recent national carnival we had for Australian tourists and fans of football to pay money to come up and be a part of the Australian football experience here. So we had some good, strong interest in that, and I think that'll continue to grow. So people who love the game, love sport, it's a great connector. As every sport, it's nice to have friends around, and we've managed to jag a few there. For those of you from a non-cricket background, there's a few references in there, but yeah, I think for the Australians involved in it, it's something different. They love to see the game played elsewhere. They're very passionate about it. And for the Indian supporters there, I think it's just something completely unique, something completely different to get involved in. So, as I said, it's not about the celebrities, but it's nice to have them on board. So why AFL in Australia and India? We'll come back to that. I don't think the drivers are too different, to be honest. I mean, in terms of developing the game here in India, it's not about developing athletes for international competitions. They're not going to make great money out of it. You know, there's no career pathway there, but I actually think that's a positive. There's no pressure on kids here to perform in the game. They can play it for fun. There's no institutional hangover here. We're coming in with a fairly clean product that doesn't have a lot of gender hang-ups, so it's easy to integrate boys and girls together. So for this very strange Australian game, I think it's quite an interesting vehicle to get kids engaged in play and less about the sport here in India. This is a snapshot from the main Australian football website outlining the benefits for kids, parents and the community. I don't think they're any different in India as they are in Australia. If you go through every single one of those points, I think they're all applicable to India. So we're not saying that what works in Australia will work in India. It doesn't work that way. But the lessons and the drivers behind why Australian football has developed such a good junior program, I think, are very relevant to India. I'll just finish with a short clip again in terms of how the Football Association itself promotes the game. They do a little bit of promoting of the game at elite level, but this next clip is what they run in prime time at huge expense to really target people to sell the message about Australian football.
I'm lost, can't do my thing. That's why I sing, gimme that thing. Gimme that, gimme that, gimme that, gimme that thing. Gimme that, gimme that, gimme that thing. Gimme that, gimme that, gimme that thing. Gimme that, gimme that, gimme that, gimme that, gimme that, gimme that. Gimme that, gimme that, gimme that, gimme that thing. Gimme that, gimme that, gimme that thing.
The main messages in there, though, around community passion, most importantly fun and engagement. So, once again, I think that's extremely relevant for India. The only issue with me, as I've discussed with the AFL, and what I hope we'll see change very shortly, is that in that video we have no Indian kids. So next time they bring this out, I said to them, I want to see Indian kids playing the sport, not just in Australia, but also in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. And now we move on to our last but not the least speaker for this session, David Thiru from Kenya. And Kenya, all of us admire for their great success in middle distance and long distance running. And many people of an older generation, my generation, would remember Kip Keino, 1968 Mexico Olympics. I think a very defining moment when he won the 1500 meters in such grand style against the great American Jim Ryan. And after that, I mean, there's been a non-stop success for Kenyan athletes. And David Thiru is really a man of many parts: business administration, sports administration, and sports and community leadership, and part of the Mathare Youth Sports Association. And he has gone back to the community in helping to develop sports. So I'll let David take over, and after that we'll have question and answer sessions.
Thank you. I'm going to have a short video that will explain what we do, and then I'll try to address the question that I've been told to address. So let's see if this works. Okay, Maisa is from Kenya. We've been there for 27 years now, and I am one of the beneficiaries. I was a player when Maisa started, and so I'm basically one of the products of sports and development, which I'm very proud of. So my belief is that sports can make a difference. I think it has definitely made a difference for me. And I've been able to kind of combine that with the education, and I think if we can sorry guys, the video is not playing, so I will have to explain, but the coach did a good job. He explained kind of what we do. We operate in the eastern part of Nairobi, and we operate in 16 different areas of Nairobi. And in those areas, we have a league running, and the total number of teams that we registered last year was about 1,400 teams, over 1,400 teams, and about 20,000 members, registered football members. And the way we do it is that we have one staff organizing a zone, and a staff could have at least 100 teams. So this is where the unique part of MISA comes in, because for him to run the zone, we organize a league committee, which is basically the youth themselves electing members from the community to lead their zone. So the decisions or what activities to be done, the cleanups and all the other activities are done by the youth. So the staff that we have is basically a facilitator to make sure that we have the football, to make sure that the goalposts are there, but the real working, the real day-to-day things, officiating the matches, sitting in disputes when there was if disputes are there during matches, the league committees of the zone kind of sits down and runs those decisions. So basically we say that the league is basically owned, it's basically run by the youth in MISA. So that is one very unique aspect. So we don't necessarily consider the youth targets. We say this, they are part of it, they actually own the program. So this is our motto, giving the youth a sporting chance on and off the field. This is a question I've been told to address: the importance of contextual planning and execution in the development of sport, of a grassroots program. Example of MISA. And basically, in MISA, to implement a program, as I've said, you have in the grassroots, it is done by the youth themselves. So to start a program, you have to involve the youth. They actually take part in, they sit down and they take part in deciding what is the issue in our community, what are we going to address. And if we want to do a cleanup, they will decide, today we're going to do a cleanup and we'll do it at this place. So the structure that we have is clearly defined to ensure that the youth have a say in at every level. So this is the 16 zones I was talking about. Our approach is basically a bottom-up approach, and MISA considers the youth, as I said earlier, equal partners. We don't necessarily say, this is what we're going to do. They decide, and they take part in decisions. So basically we do cleanups, and one of the unique features we have is on our league. Our league is competitive, it's really competitive, and it runs throughout the year. One of the features we have, a unique feature, is in our league standing, there's a column that says cleanup points. So you earn points for participating in cleanup. And you can never be champions in MISA if you've not participated in any cleanup activity. So when I was playing, of course, my aim was not to do cleanup, was to play and win. But to win, you have to participate in cleanup. So eventually, you eventually get the importance of doing cleanup and all that. And we also have other programs like HIV/AIDS training, libraries in the slum. In fact, we have we now own 2 new libraries, and this is with support from the Dutch Community Union. So we also become very strong in terms of having community libraries, and this is where community members can just walk in and use the facility. And we try to link that with sports. So we have extra people who actually benefit, who don't necessarily play football, but they do join in through the library because they want to use the facility. And eventually they realize there's also football happening. So yeah, it's now starting to work the other way. So what is the key to effective grassroots and development? In our assessment, we believe that the key is ownership. Ownership by the youth, ownership by the community, that this is their problem. And this is, whatever is happening is, they own it and it's theirs. And they can take part in decision making, they can take part in running the operation. So that, for me and for us, that is the key aspect of grassroots sports. Involvement and ownership. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David, for bringing out these points of importance of ownership and involvement of youth. Okay, now we move on to the question and answer session. Just some rules for that because there's a very long day ahead and we've also started a bit late. Please introduce yourself, but restrict yourself to one question. Do not get into sort of cross argument with any of the speakers. You all can continue the discussion outside over tea and when we meet. So I'll throw it open to the audience and just raise your hand. I'm sure there'll be some volunteer bringing a mic around. And just say who you want the question addressed to, who you want the answer from. But I especially request, please restrict yourself to one question or one comment. Don't get into a long drawn out process because there'll be lots of others who want to ask and I really have very little time because the organizers have to move on to their next program. It will be unfair to the speakers who have come for that. So over to the audience. So just raise your hand, anybody. Yeah, yes please, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Poonam, I'm from UK Sport. The question is to Stephen. It's about your Ciudad Juarez work project there. I just wanted to find out whether football there is being used to tackle the disappearance of women and particularly the femicide issues that are going on there at the moment.
I'm sorry, can you repeat where?
So in your Ciudad Juarez project?
It has actually been used for that. It's mostly women's empowerment program that they're working on. And they have been addressing that issue using the footballs. That has been since this video was actually created. So it is used quite effectively in that regard.
Yes, anybody else, please? Yeah, at the back.
Hi, my name is Sudeep. My question is for Tom. Just sort of asking you that since we are sitting at the United Nations conference, there's something that the AFL has done for world peace. So would you like to throw light upon that?
This wasn't a setup, by the way. I didn't actually know he was going to ask that. Sorry, I should have mentioned that in my presentation. I meant to. What we actually saw for the first International Cup was a combined Israeli-Palestinian team come to Melbourne, and they've been down 3 times now. I think it was something that was originally done through soccer football. It's a concept that Australian football borrowed, but I think it's quite interesting because Australian football in Palestine and Israel would have 0 profile. What I'm working on with SUDIP at the moment is whether we can do an Indian-Pakistan peace team to go down to Australia to participate. So I think there's a few issues with the more established sports. Perhaps AFL is a nice little clean vehicle for that to actually take place without too much controversy. So watch this space.
Yes, anybody else? Anybody? Any comment, question, anything anybody would like to make? Yeah, Stephen would like to elaborate. Yeah, Stephen.
I'm sorry, I don't think I answered completely your question about that because I didn't use a good example on the use for the topic you're regarding. I can use an example from Cambodia, especially, where this situation where human trafficking is a huge problem, and also the use of women has happened quite badly. And there's an organization called Salt Academy that I mentioned earlier, and they have a group called the Mighty Girls, which is an excellent case study on addressing the issue of human trafficking and using soccer and football for that very issue. And they are using the football that we have here today for that. And it's an amazing case study. It's Mighty Girls, Salt Academy. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Sufra, what is the scale-up plan that you have, and where would you like to be in 5 years with the program that you're rolling out?
See, essentially, what we want to do is in the next, we have a roadmap going ahead. And within the next 5 to 7 years, we want each and every state to adopt a grassroots program. So what we will essentially do is, excuse me, what we will essentially do is basically replicate the model that we have, but make it much more state specific. Give them customized solutions to their specific grassroots requirements. So in the 5 to 7 years from now, we wish to have all states who are members of AIFF as to undertake our grassroots program fully.
Yes, anybody else? Yes, please.
I have the question for the AIFF. I'm from the Ball Project Mumbai. We have got the Under-17 World Cup, the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. How are you going to be using that opportunity to get the grassroots program running? And how do you target the number of kids, as in how many kids do you plan to train for that? Because you haven't mentioned anything of the Under-17 World Cup that India got, because that's a huge opportunity for us.
See, essentially, let me go back to what I presented. Grassroots football is basically for kids between 6 and 12 years of age. So, numerically speaking, the kids even at 12 today won't really be, eligible. They'll be like really young for the under-17 teams then. But what the under-17 World Cup has done, and we are very confident will do, is that it will generate a huge amount of interest in the sport. So it will attract a lot of kids to the sport, and we can use that as the platform to get more and more kids involved in the game. So that, as a vehicle to get more kids into the sport, I think the Under-17 World Cup will do a fantastic job for us. It will also, again, it will also bring a lot of stakeholders into the game. Like, we mentioned already about the clubs, the schools, the NGOs. We can get a lot of sponsors on board. So there'll be a huge amount of interest going around the Under-17 World Cup, which will be of big benefit to us. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, good morning everybody. Ari Koivu from Finland. Actually, you're working with the most vulnerable, which is very nice, but I didn't hear any of you consider anything or on a sports for disabled, for children with disabilities. So how do you have you involved that in your programs, please?
We just, for now, we 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, we ran a fully fledged sports for disability program where we linked with schools and would bring the schools that are running, that have disabled kids to our premises and do some training and all that. And also we had our youth trained to go out and find the ones that are hidden in the homes and bring them out and kind of link them with the schools. So at the moment, this year we've not been running that program, but it is one of our programs that we treasure and plan to continue running. However, having said that, in some of our zones, because our zones are from different areas, is one that integrates the disabled kids that very well, unlike the others. Others, mine is an open program where one kid who is disabled, you find him sitting at the side and collecting all the papers and recording and others playing some role that whatever they can do on the side. But there's only one zone that we've been able to have a team that runs, regularly and quite well. So we do have we have already had some initiative in that direction, and we have some good contacts, which means that with people who are specialists in dealing with the disabled. So that's one of our key areas.
Sure. For One World Football, we actually partner with many organizations that work with the disabled. But one in particular is in Rwanda that deals with a lot of the people of Rwanda that lost limbs during their civil war, and they are playing football with one limb. And it's an amazing video that if you go onto our website, you can see they're very effective football players with this organization. There's a laundry list of organizations I could point out that do use sports in general as a tool.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. My question is with, to Mr. O.P. Singh. Actually, I belong to Hisar and I am also from Haryana. My question is that, like, in football, like, we have very less number of people who are participating in national team. So what is the reason behind that? What are those opportunities that lie behind?
It is a question for him to answer. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. So it is not about football or cricket or something like that. I sincerely believe that people are intelligent and they make viable choices. If people find playing football is going to get them viable career options, they will come there in a big number. So I will ask FIFA to get down from the horses, get down to district level, block level, and create some imaginative incentive architecture. It is happening in Brazil. So there is huge kind of outrage over hosting of the World Cup. And the president is finding it very difficult to answer why the hospitals don't have FIFA standards or schools don't have FIFA standards. So when we talk of excellence all the time, so there will be a deficit in inclusion part of sport promotion and participation. So it's about lack of opportunity that I feel is the issue.
Yeah, anybody else? Yes.
I'm Dr. Ajay Singh. I'm working in the University of Gwalior. And after having listened to the panelists, it was great. My basic question is only one, like if grassroots planning has to be done like it was said in the beginning. Three things are very important. I think we need to have a number of people who can give right kind of sports to right kind of people at right age. when we are talking of 6 to 12 in schools, it is important whether we have resources available in terms of coaches who can teach right kind of football, not for making them world champions, but for their health and wellness. And second aspect which is required is there are plenty of schools which do not have football grounds. Have we made any kind of survey that in next 5 years how many football grounds are to be created in Delhi or in areas where there are large number of people who want to play football? And these are my two questions. Number of coaches, what is the institution, which institution prepares the qualitative football coaches who will be employed by you for giving right kind of football, and number of play fields required for grassroots level football in the country?
I can answer the bit on the coaches aspect. What I've repeatedly mentioned is that we always develop a customized development program with each state. Now, an essential aspect of that customized development plan is the development of coaches. So what we also have is our own AIFF grassroots coaching course, which each grassroots coach has to undergo. So when we decide a plan with the state, it takes into account all these things. For example, how many kids are we targeting? How many coaches do we need to educate and train? How many courses do we need to conduct about that? So essentially, once our strategic plan is made, it takes care of all the aspects of grassroots football that the state will require in order to implement it.
One last, I think you had, last question, because then we have to move on.
Hi. I would be interested to hear how your programs have engaged girls and women, especially in countries like India and Kenya, where women don't generally participate in play and sport.
Who do you want, David?
Any. Whoever.
Others can.
Yeah, in MISA, the number of girls, we have 20,000, the number of girls about 4,000, so it's a bit disproportionate, but we've come a long way. When I was playing in MISA, there was no girls league, and MISA had this tough task to break through the barrier and get the girls to play. And this has been a journey that has been quite slow, but it's now really taken shape, because we even have our girls, like the national team of Kenya. You go to the national team of Kenya, it's just a MISA team, basically, the coach and everything, the team manager. So we were the first ones to try and break through. I remember my younger sister couldn't. She tried. She couldn't wear a short. She couldn't be. She was too embarrassed to do that. But now, when the kids are born, we just find the other girls playing, and we've really actually not just in MISA, but also affected the country with the girls program. And one of our good examples is a girl who's eventually played for Wanda Brebe girls team, and now she's back as a coach and a role model. So the girls program has been a long road, and we still haven't reached there. We still have a long way to go, but looking back at where we started, we've done quite a bit.
Any one of you? Yeah, then
It was a question I was waiting to come from you particularly. From utilitarian to aspirational. So we talk a lot about sports as a useful activity. So we basically have to try to, at one level, to make it aspirational. Like, we have a girl mountaineer. She was from a, you can say, a scheduled caste community. And she scaled Mount Everest. She was the first scheduled caste woman to mount Everest. So we lobbied with the government to appoint him as Deputy Superintendent of Police straight away. So now when she goes around and sees that because of mountaineering, so more girls are driven to that. If I do things like that, I may get equally escalated. Similarly, we have hockey players, Mamta Kharab, Surinder Kaur. So lots of good women players. So we have tried to make them role models by putting them at a very high level in the government, where they interact a lot with the community. So one way is to encouraging girls like Kiran Bedi, attracting girls to police. So good players, women players being given good role positions in the government, and inspirational positions. So one way we are trying to attract girls to sports. Secondly, we are happy to learn that we have got this 5,000 scholarship program. It's a scholarship program. So on the basis of excellence in physical activity like running, jumping and throwing, you get a scholarships. And we have this conditional cash transfer model. There is no intermediary. If you qualify and turn up for 22 days for sports and it is into the playground, the money gets into your account. So the contingency, the conditional cash transfer model. So we are trying to build a direct dialogue between the aspiring players and the government, instead of going through parents and teachers. So the moment you create opportunity that is realistically achievable, people line up. People are basically intelligent. We can talk in any language, we make any presentations, we say anything. They make out whether it is useful for them or not. So challenge is to make a program, make an outreach fundamentally sound that may appeal to average intelligence. On the face of it, it looks, yes, it's for us. So when in the first edition of our scholarship program, in 5,000, we had 1,000 girls. And the scoring is age and gender neutral. So 8-year girl is competing with 8-year girl only. So in 3-year time frame, the number of successful girl participants has gone to 1,500. So you can say that more and more girls are taking to sports. So what I'm trying to say, like 5,000 scholarship in sports means you have created 5,000 opportunities. That's attracting aspiring players. So we need to do things like that. And these things are applicable across countries and across state. You can hit the ground running, you can do it just right away. You don't need any infrastructure. And secondly, lack of infrastructure, I don't believe in too much. If you make a road one way for a time, it can be a marathon track. So many community assets can be utilized as a sports facilities also, on holidays or when they're free to use. So it is more about creating incentives, creating, giving people reasons to play. So we are trying to give girls more and more reasons to play. Hopefully you are happy with the answer.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So last word on this subject, Tom, quickly.
I have a question Mr. O.P. said in continuation of what he's speaking. Like he said, you have got 5,000 scholarships. Government has so many schemes, but the beneficiaries, they are not even aware of the schemes. So how do you advertise or how do you publicize that?
We have taken good care of it. I believe in communication. If you are not heard, you are not followed. So we had a radio jingles and the media was very positive and going to the websites. Our website, playerforindia.com, attracts 3 million traffic every year. So we have used different platforms to get across to the people. Then you have on-ground activities also. We have 300 coaches who are given a block. They go around to the schools also. And the best promotion is, by word of mouth, parents insisting, why you are depriving my children of an opportunity for scholarships. So making, beneficiary out of the program. So as I told you earlier also, that if your program is good and benefits people, then come to know about it. If your program is not good, then you do whatever you will do. It won't work.
We're running out of time, so last word by Stephen and Tom, and then we have to close this session because some announcements and they have to move on.
Just a very quick comment from me in relation to girls in AFL. It's in the DNA of the game, as you saw in our presentation, but happily enough, one of our first 6 full-time game development officers in India is actually a young Indian girl based in Rajasthan. So, small start, but yeah, we'd love to see that grow.
Yeah.
My point is just on a legislative basis. The case for, in the United States, back in the 70s, they created a law called the Title IX law. As you might know, the collegiate system in the U.S. is very sports-based. The law itself basically said that there had to be an equal amount of women's teams as there were men's teams that are getting scholarships in the universities. And this is a huge boom if you watch the Olympics right now, because women's sports in the United States is actually much stronger than men's sports in the United States. And that all comes down to the fact that sports was made equal in that very, very influential realm. And it was a legislative.
Okay, so we come to an end. I thank Tom, David, Stephen, O.P. Singh and Subrat for their very interesting, anecdotal, illustrative comments, and also all the audience for participating. But we have lots more, so we move on, some announcements.
Thank you, sir. We had a very insightful discussion. Thank you for being patient and listening to us. I have 3 quick announcements. So just after this, we have the breakaways. So grassroots football and development in room number 2, which will be this middle portion. Developing and implementing grassroots program will be room number 1, that is the last end of this hall. And grassroots football and development and grassroots sports beyond soccer in room number 3, which is this space. So we'll be using this space. Quickly, somebody has lost or left his or her phone. Okay, great. So collect it from me. We are also followed from 3:15 onwards the field visit, which will be followed by dinner. So it's a good opportunity to interact, and we'll do a little bit of Delhi darshan. So see you all after 10 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you. So please join us for tea.
What do I do? Yeah, sorry, I haven't shown you yet. Have I seen it? I'll show you here. Hit stop. And then it says, are you sure? And you say yes, it's just this. And then it's going to ask you to notify you